Hello and welcome. This is Claire Humphreys from the Women's Marketing Club, and I am here with Judi Samuels, Garden Designer Extraordinaire, and I'm delighted to be interviewing her today. Welcome, Judi.
Thank you. Hello, Claire. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thank you. I'm so excited to hear more about you because I met you through a completely unrelated activity where I was singing, so it's lovely to finally get to spend some time with you, find out about your business side. Tell me a bit more. What do you do?
Okay, well, I am a garden designer. I started at Capel Manor in Enfield, North London.
Oh, wow.
Back in 2009, after being made redundant from a very regular sort of public sector type job. And thought, should I go back in and keep going? And I thought, no, spend the money, retrain and become a garden designer. And that is exactly what I did. And I have been in business now for about 7 years.
Wow.
Starting out as a gardener, I did practical hands-on gardening for 3 years. And the last 4 years have been working as a designer. So I develop gardens that might be in need. I also work with new builds, so it could be absolutely a blank canvas. And I will start from the very beginning. And a design can include anything from bricks and mortar to hard landscaping, to the planting, to ponds, to streams, trees, all sorts. So as a designer, it's my job to oversee the vision of what that space can be for those people who want to live in it in a creative way.
That sounds beautiful. I love the sound of that. What inspired you to do that?
I come from a dance theatre background. In a previous lifetime, I was a contemporary dance teacher and choreographer. And
wow.
As a child, I was always into gardening a bit. Sort of my first gardening job as a kid was to take the stones out of the soil. I remember that was all my mother would allow me to do. You can take the stones out of the soil.
Sounds like gardening was a serious thing in your house.
A little too serious. So I guess it started something for me. And then I had, as I grew up as a young person, dancing more and more, I sort of discovered contemporary dance as well as ballet. And I was thinking about people like Martha Graham and Isadora Duncan, who were people that created dance techniques that kind of came away from the orthodox practical discipline of ballet and the conformity of ballet and wanted to do something different, move away from it. Very much expressive, and that is very much who I am. And so roll forward in time all these years later, becoming a garden designer has allowed me to sort of intertwine my sort of spatial awareness and my physical creativity, using not bodies this time, but plants and hard materials, and devising how somebody will live and move and walk and be in a space, in an outdoor space. So for me, it's joined up, although when people meet me for the first time, they might go, wow, you've done this, you've done that. For me, they're connecting, they're physical, they're expressions, it's creative, it's making for people, facilitating people, and that is my thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think for a lot of us women, there's been lots of different changes. I don't know any women that are still doing the same thing now as they were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you know. So I think all of what we do does create who we are, especially when we have our own sort of brand. It does feel like it's kind of all of us.
Yes, inclusive.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, definitely. It's nice having that freedom, isn't it, to bring in all of those different aspects.
I think people who perhaps have a less creative bent are perhaps more conforming, more comfortable with convention and wish to sort of box career progression. But for me, I've been able to sort of play corporate for a while, but have jumped out of it And I have to say, I'm much happier outside the corporate world than I am in it.
Yes,
Perhaps
I can imagine.
Going to listen a little bit more about the reality of living on freelance income.
Well, I was going to ask you firstly, what has been the best thing about setting up in business for you?
I have to say, the best thing is for me to devise my own voice. I'm very much the creator and the co-creator with clients when I'm devising a creative solution, if you like, for a garden space. And the independence it gives me. I drive around the countryside visiting gardens and clients, and I don't have to go back to an office at a particular time. Nobody is telling me when I can eat my lunch. I don't have to sign in or out. I am a bit of a libertarian, but I have to say, I think perhaps one of your later questions will raise this point. It does come at a bit of a price, and that's around finance and how you support yourself when you are truly trying to live a freelance life or a self-employed life. But that's the greatest thing for me, is the creative opportunity and ultimately giving people what they want. Sometimes people don't know exactly what they want, but I know I can bring them to it. So it's a relationship, a working relationship of evolution and trust. And sometimes garden designs, they don't come to fruition. I may draw and it may end there because I haven't met what the client is after. We haven't quite understood each other. That happens. But more often than not, and I'm happy to say, people and we relate, we find a way to relate, and that creates the right garden for that particular client.
Sounds lovely. Yes, it can be challenging, I'm sure.
Very, very challenging.
So what would you say has been the hardest thing about setting up your own business, or perhaps the hardest challenge you've had to overcome?
There's probably a few things I could answer that question with. One of the things I find very, very difficult, I would say painfully difficult. I'm not an especially shy person, but a situation I find very challenging would be to go do networking, social networking, small businesses. I have tried it, and I'm not comfortable with it. I think I'm just a bit too used to being alone and devising by myself. I work by myself when I'm in my office. Apart from client contact time, I come back to my space and I'm drawing or I'm devising or I'm doing plant research. They are solitary activities. So I think that's one thing perhaps I should probably excel at, but I do find challenging. The other thing that is difficult is, of course, the financial implication, as I've said previously. When you're freelance, you have to make every, I think it's 30 minutes count. And if you're not producing something that leads to potential income, then it's holiday time. And as a freelancer, having a holiday is a misnomer. You know, I'm not quite sure those two things are compatible. I'm still working towards that myself. So there are challenges, most definitely being self-employed, but there is equally nothing like it.
Yes, I would quite agree, yes. So what has helped you? Obviously the networking hasn't been the thing that you love and that's helped you to grow your business and attract more clients. What has worked for you? What's the thing that's really helped you to get clients and grow your business?
Sure. I think people help me find other people, and that's often happy clients. There's an expression that's used in theatre that you're only as good as your last production or your last performance, and I would say you're only as good as your last gig. And I'm sure you relate to that well. It's the same for me. If people come away feeling absolutely enraptured about the new garden space they have, they will talk about it. People talk if they're happy, and they will share with friends and family. And I've actually had a couple of clients this year already who have come to me because I've worked with friends of theirs. So that is the best, the greatest recommendation. So that definitely works. I am pumping social media like a good one. And I have to say, there are only so many platforms that I can really give my time to and be authentic. Otherwise, I think it's just putting out for putting out's sake. So the two social media places I tend to spend most time would be Instagram and Facebook, although I am on Twitter occasionally. I think using social media is a great way to get yourself out there and be seen and give a voice to what you do, but also to learn who else is in your field, whatever your genre is or your specialism. It's nice to see how other people conduct themselves, their communication style, what their websites look like, you know, what their prices are. I mean, I'm sure we all look at each other's social media platforms and people's websites and look at just how they hang it all together. I know I do. So it's a combination, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, to be aware of what people are doing. I think sometimes people can kind of sort of compare too much or get themselves in a bit of a tiz, which obviously isn't brilliant. But I don't think it's definitely healthy to compare and see what's out there. And it's interesting because sometimes people can be a little bit, you know, like sometimes you go to networking meetings, and you know, sometimes if someone realizes they do the same thing as you, they can be a bit awkward or not want to speak to you. Whereas, you know, I used to run my own women's business support group, and it was like, no, you know, everybody come, and it's great to chat, because I think it's brilliant to chat to people. And what I found actually is that people that are a bit more open, they end up sometimes they'll get work from that. So it'll be like, oh, actually, I met a gardener, and they're like, oh, I've got a new contract, you know, can you help out? So interestingly, my experience has been that actually, you know, meeting other people in the same field has actually been really helpful and advantageous. But some people can really shy away from it. So yeah, that's interesting. So what advice would you give if you were going to do it all again?
I would start with thinking about pricing what you do and thinking about how you market it to people. How are you going to ultimately court the people that you wish to provide your service to? So it certainly entails some research. And I know for me, when I began as a gardener, I would look online at what people were charging, talk to other gardeners, and get a feel for what the price range was comfortably, to be able to sort of put myself into the marketplace, which I did. And I had clients, which was a great hurrah. And sort of winding forward 7 years now, doing what I've been doing and evolving and developing my skills as a designer, I now do a thing sort of seasonally where I offer a 30-minute free consultation, just to really bring my presence into a potential client space. And you might wish to try that as a mechanism to elicit conversation, to be seen, to be heard, and leave it. I don't do any hard selling. I'm really not into selling at all. I may occasionally do what's called a courtesy follow-up, but I'm not heavy. I wouldn't call. I would always do it by email so that the potential client has space to think about it. I'm not cheap. I'm not ridiculously expensive, but I'm not a cheap item that somebody would easily go to. And I think whatever your genre is, you need to sort of factor in the thinking time. And if you're buying a big kitchen or you're moving house, these are huge accompanying expenses. So they're not going to be knee-jerk response answers in terms of being commissioned overnight. Occasionally, some people will, but it takes time. So particularly for me, it's giving people space and trusting that they're thinking about their budgets, what they want to do first. It might be a piecemeal approach. I often say, let's do a bit now, so we could do the hard landscaping now, do all the preparation, do the feature planting, and then come back next year and do all the
That's quite nice.
planting.
Give people a bit of freedom.
Exactly. We can break it down into service chunks. For me, it's easy. We live in seasons, so it's easy, you know, and for other businesses find a way of offering part portions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, is there any book, for example, that you've come across that's really helped with your sort of evolution, either in business or your personal development that's come through?
I am constantly looking at books and I'm constantly online. I feel if I named one book, it would be unfair to all the other, the other gardeners, the other botanists, the other horticulturists, the other designers. I'm always looking for inspiration. I'm always thinking about what I'm doing. I'm always processing. I do a lot of research online, I have to say. I use the plants database that I sort of pay for via a membership, and it has a 20,000 plus strong plants database with all the information I need to be able to compile meaningful data for people's plantings. And I use that a lot. I have a resource library at home. One of the greatest ways for me to sort of learn, develop myself is to go see. So if you ever see me driving around Hertfordshire, no, not just by the signage on the side of my car, but my head would be hanging out the window because I study curbstones, I study trees, I'm looking at what's the front garden got, I'm looking at colour palettes, I'm looking at plants. I will plunder your shrub to see if it has perfume. That for me is learning, and I do that every day. And visit gardens. I do Chelsea every year in Hampton Court.
Right. So, has there been any software or training or seminar or anything that's been a real game changer for you or your business?
I have developed my design skills through using an old drawing software that I've kept, actually. I've been thinking about, should I jump to Vectorworks, which is a more contemporary design package specifically for garden designers, or use something like InDesign or SketchUp. And I keep shying away from them. I look at them and think, do I really have the developmental time to come off the rock face and learn these new packages? And they are complex. So I've kind of landed on a compromise whereby I've honed my drawing skills. So I sketch 3D sort of perspective sketches to give people an idea of like the key elements in a new design. And I also use my desktop publishing skills to produce something, a schematic, a scale plan as we call it, for clients to work from. And that works for me. So they either pass over these drawings to their landscapers, or they would commission us to install the garden ourselves. So they really are the tools of my trade. So seeing, I take photographs of everything, I draw everything, and I use this package to design the scale plans. They're very detailed, and that's what the landscape will work from. So for me that works. There may come a time when I have to bite the bullet and go for one of these contemporary softwares, but so far I'm making beautiful gardens. You're
happy with the one that you've got? What's the one that you've
I've never had a landscape yet, say I don't understand what I say. So
what's the one that you're using that's working for you?
It's called Visio.
Visio.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, it's old, but it works. So that in combination with drawing, and I use elements, Photoshop elements, and I can sort of superimpose sketches and put colourways in, and I create beautiful colour palettes with mood boards.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Mood boards are a great way to show clients what their garden ingredients are, a bit like making a cake. I bring the cake ingredients to the table, whether it's furniture.
Yeah, I do vision boards, so yeah, it's the same sort of idea, isn't it? Just getting a feel.
That really helps.
It's a real kind of an essence thing, isn't it? Rather than a precise.
Not everybody has the ability to imagine what their garden will look like. So seeing is believing sometimes for some people. So I have to say, I use Pinterest a lot. I actually create private Pinterest boards so that they're not viewable by public. And I pin things to them, and I always invite my clients to do the same.
No, that's a fantastic idea. I love that. That's really interactive. That probably helps both of you. That sounds like a really brilliant idea. It's very visual, isn't it? And easy to
It's beautiful.
collate.
It's instant.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea for something creative.
Yes.
Judi, it's been fantastic talking to you. It's really nice to hear a bit more about your journey and what you get up to.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm just checking you haven't grown roots.
So Judi, should any of our listeners wish to get in touch with you, how can they do that? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Great, thank you. I'm at Judi Samuels Garden Design.co.uk. That's my website. And just to say, I spell my name like Judi Dench, and that is to say with an I, the all-important I. And my surname is Samuels, so it has an S at the front and an S at the end.
Brilliant.
So it's Judi Samuels Garden Design. You'll find me online, and you can email me. I'm Judi at judisamuelsgardendesign.co.uk. It'll be a pleasure to hear from you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for talking to us today, Judi. Well done, and thank you for sharing your business story with us.